Hey guys, first of all, I'd like to ask you to do me a solid favor today, and that's like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Also, if you can, click on the link in the description. You can find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube. You can find me at all your favorite audio and video podcast affiliates like iTunes, iHeart, Pandora, Audible, Amazon, Spotify, Radio Public, and to an extent, Sirius XM. And I think Amazon Music as well. Hopefully I've mentioned them, doing that. But also, outside of those podcasts, you can find me at other video outlets like Rumble.com and VENMO. Those places have identical content to what you see here on the main YT, but there's some content may not be very YT friendly, so you can find it there though instead. I'm also on Odyssey and Daily Motion. I also have a Twitch.tv. There's stuff on there. I got to reactivate that again down the line, and I have a Kick.com, not activated yet, but eventually will be. But that's being served as an alternative backup to Twitch. Also, I have a Patreon.com. You can support me there, and I have a Cash App and a Venmo if you want to help out there as well. And you can follow me on TikTok, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Also, guys, I have several online stores. I have a Fourth Wall store and a Teespring store. The Fourth Wall store is fairly new. It's got a couple of graphic tees in there, t-shirts if you will, and some non-graphic stuff non-graphic items that I do have to probably fix up later on. I also have a Teespring store. The link for that is at the bottom, and you can get merchandise there you can't get anywhere else. The same with the Fourth Wall store, where the link is at the top here as well. Also, guys, if you would like, during the video premiere here, you can chime in the super chat, chime in the live chat, I should say, give your thoughts on what I'm going to say here and everything, as well as I almost let it slip there. You can also donate through super chats during the live chat as well. And if you don't get here in time to take part, I should say, in the live chat for the video premiere, you can donate in the super chats if you want to. You can also donate through super thanks afterwards, when the video is done premiering. And on both occasions, you can give your comments in the comment section. But with that said, I should say, let's get on to the topic at hand. Alright, so yesterday I uploaded my 151st edition, 151st segment, episode, if you will, on the, that was part of the Animated Girls Profile Confidential. The 151st one was on Catwoman Selina Kyle from Batman. But as I was doing that, I mentioned in the audio video at the beginning, and I had to double check this, last month, actually, believe it or not, a couple of days after I was let go from my seasonal job that I was in my third year of, last month, on October 5th, I believe, it basically marked, believe it or not, a decade since I've been doing this series. That's right, a whole decade of doing the Animated Girls Profile Confidential. Now, you would think in those 10 years I'd have more than 151 episodes, if you will, 151 segments, if you will. You'd think I'd have more than that, but in all honesty, this is what happens basically when you're working, you have other stuff coming up, and basically you are in the, I guess you could say, living arrangements that I'm in. Sometimes you gotta, work around certain situations and, basically deal with the cards dealt with you when it comes to doing that. But also the other thing is that you have to, look around and basically find, what characters you can talk about. And my preference always was along the lines of, they got to have some kind of ties to animation, or at least been animated in some way. Now, some would say that some of the characters I chose weren't necessarily animated, but when we really get down to it, they do have ties to animation adaptations of the franchises they're part of. So I looked at it that way, and when I look into basically what they've been incorporated into recently, like let's say little animation background sprites and everything in games, pretty much I could say that, them being chosen even years ago pretty much has now been validated. But why did I start this series? Well, basically around 2015 and 14, well, mostly 2015, there was a channel here on YouTube, it's still here, called Play for Cinema. That's PLAYFUR, cinema. Play for Cinema. You know, and if it's not, and if the YouTube captions don't put it all in one word, it's play, then it's fur and cinema, if you will. Play, fur, cinema. And basically, it's done by a guy named Jawbreaker. And what he did, one of the more popular things that he did on this channel was a series. It was a series called The Furry Girl Profiles. And what he would do is he would focus primarily on anthropomorphic female characters, mostly very attractive anthropomorphic female characters. But then later on, he decided, you know what? It shouldn't matter if they're attractive or not. If they have if they played, they played a role in animation or literature, comics, whatever. He decided, that it doesn't matter if they're attractive or not. Let's just talk about them and what their contributions were to said franchise. So at first, again, the way he would present the Furry Girl Profiles is it seemed like it was mostly like for the more attractive, sexy, anthropomorphic characters that he would talk about. But he slowly, like I said, grew into just talking about all anthropomorphic female characters that, like I said, played an integral role in the franchise that they debuted in or taken part or they were associated with. And I have to commend him for that. I have to really respect him for doing that. But to me though, when I found out about this, it was through recommendation, and I I just looked at this series that he did, and here's the thing about the Furry Girl Profiles. He goes in depth. He goes in depth with what he says about the characters. Yeah, he does talk about their sexiness and why they're attractive. Maybe drawn a certain way or written a certain way. Yeah, he'll go. He'll acknowledge that and everything. But he'll, like I said, he'll go in depth. As to why they're that way, or go into depth why they act a certain way or why they move a certain way. He basically puts a lot of analysis into his discussion. He puts a lot of analysis into his discussion about the characters. But it wouldn't just be the Furry Girl Profiles he would talk about. He would also use his channel to do little games, if you will. He would do little games where he'd basically talk about, I wouldn't say just talk about them, but he would also, I guess, do voting. It was basically a voting game is what it was. He would see who was, looked at, looked at by not just him, but by, the subscribers, the viewers, as being either the most sexiest, the most smartest, the most charismatic, the most funny, stuff like that. Stuff like that, the most seductive, stuff like that. And what's interesting is people would, probably more so than I think anybody would expect, a lot of people would participate. They would. And I would watch some of these, and I thought, this is very interesting, very unique take on not only talking more about these characters, but doing a little something on the side to see whether or not others shared the same thought and everything that he and probably other fans shared as well. So he would basically, like I say, dedicate the channel not just to the Furry Girl Profiles, but he would dedicate it to doing a lot of things related to the Furry Girl characters that he would talk about. So it was thanks to Jawbreaker and everything at Play for Cinema that inspired me back in 2015 to do my own series. But my difference was I wasn't just going to focus on anthropomorphic females, although you do see them in here. But instead, I was going to look at basically all animated females. That's what I was going to do. And my thing was, like I said earlier, is that they had to have some kind of animation done or associated with some kind of animation. In particular, like an animated show, they have ties to that, through either the show itself or an adaptation, like comic book adaptation stuff. Basically, they had to have some kind of connection. if not be outright in there. And I basically, throughout these 10 years, saw that there was a lot more characters than just the ones I knew about. There was so many more that it just blew my mind. I was just like taken aback by, what I was seeing, what I was discovering. It was just amazing, just mesmerizing, if you will, mesmerizing, to find out, that there are so many animated female characters out there. And honestly, honestly, I believe I've just basically, honestly, and I'm just looking at something outside, guys. But honestly, I think I've barely touched the surface. I have. And yeah, you might say, well, 151 editorials, episode segments, if you will, that's beyond, touching, that's beyond the surface. That's beyond, you know, the tip of the iceberg and all that, right? Well, you would think that, but here's the truth. Here's the truth. There's more out there than we can even explain. A lot more. There's a lot more out there than we can even explain. I mean, I'll give you an example. There's one character I have to look up a little bit more on. There's one character I have to look more on, if you will. But it's from this Grand Prix movie that they put out in Europe that's going to be obviously here in the States soon. And her name is Edna, And I thought, and I'm thinking to myself, that could be a good choice in the future. But here's the thing, too. It's not just characters like Edna from this Grand Prix movie. It's other characters as well. I mean, I'm a Sonic fan. There's no doubt about it. And, I haven't done Wave. I don't know if I've done Wave yet. I have to go double check. But I know that there's a lot of characters there. I think I've done Surge. I have to go double check on that. But there's a lot of female characters being brought into the IDW book, and some female characters that were in the Archie book. So yeah, it's like, you may think I've reached the tip of the iceberg, but I haven't even broke the surface yet, in my opinion. I haven't even done that. Because there's so many out there, and that's the one thing I like about doing this series. It's when I bring these out, it's a challenge. It's a challenge that I accept. It's a challenge that I run with, and do my very best at what I can do. Now, what's interesting about my series is that sometimes my videos don't go too long, but if they do, it's because basically I know a lot more than I think people would not expect. One of the episodes that I did, was on Gadget. Was on Gadget Hack Wrench of Chippendale Rescue Rangers, and that went for like let me double check here. Guys. Okay, so Gadget didn't go too long, but she went for like 17 minutes 5 seconds. The longest I ever went, believe it or not, was 10 years ago, and that was my 12th Animated Girls Profile Confidential, and that was on Sally Acorn. That pretty much is the longest I've ever gone, and that's at an hour and 1 minute. It's basically 61 minutes. It's almost 62 minutes, if you will. And again, it's just amazing to see, how much I know about a character, much to the surprise of a lot of people, to, talk so much about them. And then the second longest at that time was on Veronica DeMonica from Mr. Internet Man. And you might say, well, she's not in animation. Lately, she has been in animation, believe me. Thanks to Mr. Internet Man, thanks to some of his colleagues, she's been in there. And then the other one that came after that, at 45 minutes and 13 seconds, was Cutie Honey. So yeah, again, it all depends on how much I know about the character, how much I'm a fan of the character and stuff, to where I'm willing to basically, basically take a lot of time talking about them. Like, I took 40 minutes and 40 seconds to talk about all the Eric W. Shorts girls 8 years ago in the 47th edition. So that was pretty cool. And as I continue looking on, I'm actually looking to the playlist right now. One of the other longest I did was my 50th one, and that was at almost a half hour, and that was on Nicole. That was on Nicole, the HoloLinks from Archie Sonic, basically also from Sonic SATM, and when she was a portable device. But there's been animations that have had her now as her linked form, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, again, it all depends on how much I know about the character, and everything, how much I research, or how much I just go off of memory. And to me, it's like I said, it's worth it. It's worth it in the end. It's actually very satisfying when I'm able to share my opinions, my thoughts, and everything on the character, as well as learn a little bit about the character myself, even if I don't, even if it's the first time I'm being introduced to them, and thus allowing me to talk about them. I'm able to learn a little about them myself, like I said, and it's fun. Like I say, it's a challenge that I accept and I'm willing to run with, for as long as I continue the series, and I'm going to continue this series for a very, very long time. I'm going to continue it. No matter what people might think, I'm going to continue it. But yeah, the longest one I've done, by far, as far as I know, by far the longest one I've done is the Sally Acorn one, which I know people might say, well, that's not a surprise and everything, but yeah, and of course it shouldn't be a surprise because again, everybody loves the character, everybody loves that character, so it shouldn't be that much of a surprise. And Ninjara is like the fourth longest one I've done, Ninjara from the Ninja Turtles, and again, you might say, well, she was never in animation. Well, if you count the TMNT, you count the TMNT game that they put out called, what was it, Reshredded or something? You count that one. She's in there. That 16-bit one they did for all the consoles. She's in there. She's in there as a background character in sprite animation. So to me, that counts. And there are some animations out there that people did even before AI, featuring her. Excuse me, featuring her. So yeah, to me, I just like doing the series. When I do, I just love talking about the characters. But as I mentioned, it's all about, with my living situation, it's all about opportunity. It's all about opportunity. I mean, there are times that I'll get ready to do. I mean, and this has been for the past 10 years. There'll be times I'll get ready to do maybe another segment, another episode, another edition of Animated Girl's Profile, and talk about a character, and all of a sudden something will come, kind of interrupt that. Something will kind of come in between that needs, that takes priority, above all. It takes priority above all, even that. So I have to pause, what I'm doing and wait till, a later time. I have to wait till a later time because what I'm being, called to do or what I have to do and everything takes major priority. But outside of that, when I do get opportunities, like right now, I got an opportunity to myself to talk about my 10 years with this series. When I do get that opportunity, I will talk about the character, I will talk about. And like I said, like I said earlier, I barely touched the tip of the iceberg. I barely broke the ceiling, the glass ceiling, with what I could talk about with this series, who I could talk about, and everything, because there's so many characters out there, that it's basically like a who's who that is yet to be discussed. It's a who's who of who's yet to, get their time in the spotlight and be introduced to a new audience and everything. I mean, heck, one of the ones I did several years ago was when the PS5 came out, and one of the games they put out as a as part of the introductory of the system was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which I have played. I've played a little bit of it. You can see that on here on my channel. And we didn't know who the new female we didn't know who the female Lumbax was. We didn't know what her name was, so I just called her new female Lumbax. Oh, yeah, that's the Lumbax. I think that's a species name. That's all I did. I didn't know her name was going to be Rivet or anything. I just said Lumbax. And everybody knew who I was talking about. Everybody knew who I was talking about. So I just gave my thoughts on her and everything. Took that opportunity because, hey, it's a new character. She's in animation, if you will, because let's be honest, the Rift Apart cutscenes for the game pretty much serve as a pseudo-sequel to the Ratchet and Clank animated film that they did. So there's that. But again, I just looked at an opportunity right there and took advantage. Just ran with it, if you will. But yeah, I I think we're just getting started. I really do. I'm just getting started, like I mentioned earlier, because you look at, let's say, the Donkey Kong side of things. Oh, how many female characters have we got in Donkey Kong, including the new one that just came out? How many characters in Mario that have yet to be covered? And I think I don't. And you know what? Honestly, I haven't. I don't even think I've covered Peach yet. I don't think I've covered Daisy yet. You know, or Birdo. And you could say, well, they've never been animated. Peach has been animated. Okay, Toadstool and everything, she has been animated. Daisy, she has been animated. When you look at the cutscenes and everything from the games, so I count those. Same with Birdo. I count those. You know, so it's just amazing how much more there is to look forward to in talking about with the series. How many more characters are out there that I could talk about when it comes to the series and everything. I mean, heck, when I found out about this one adult series, thanks to Saberspark, because he was covering it on his channel. This Peekaboo or whatever his name is, with this character called Dark the Pussycat. It's like the moment I heard about this show, thanks to Saberspark, I checked it out, did a little research on Pussycat, and I'm like, oh yeah, got to talk about her, got to put her into the series, and I did. I did. You know, and of course, being an MLPFIM fan, of course, I basically wanted to bring them into the equation, and I did as well. I did as well. So, to me, honestly, this is one of those. To me, I know I sound like I'm being repetitive, but to me, this is just what I love about doing a series like this. You know, and yeah, my channel is full of a bunch of stuff. It's full of a variety of stuff. And yeah, I do have some other series that I've done and I've put a hiatus on indefinitely for the time being, and I might come back to, down the line. But this is one of those main series that when I started it, I just wanted to keep it going for as long as I could. And yeah, I've taken a long hiatus on it at times, but when I came back to it, I just decided I'm going to try to keep going as long as I can. And just because I've surpassed 150, and recently I uploaded my 151st one yesterday, it doesn't mean it's over. Like I said, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting warmed up because, like I said, I mentioned them by name. There's so many more out there. There's so many more out there. I mean, look at Disney. You got so many princesses I could talk about. You got so many main female protagonists I could talk about and everything. It's just a huge, unlimited melting pot, smolting pot, if you will, of goodness that I could just dig into. I could just dig into, and really just give my thoughts on those characters. I mean, I look at the Eric W. Shorts side of things, and I'm looking at characters there that you might say were not animated, but believe me, with AI today and everything, whether we like it or not, those can be animated. I can dig right into them. Like Stacy and Tracy, from Double Z Studios and stuff. I can dig into those. So long story short, it's been a great ride, and it's going to continue getting better and better and better and better and better. And I just wanted to come on here and thank you guys for following me on this journey with the series. I know it may not be. I know, like with I know, like Jawbreakers. I'm trying to find a word to say. I know that just like with Jawbreakers series, the Furry Go profiles and stuff. I know it may not be everybody's cup of tea. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I think what I'm doing with this series, is not just educating people on who these characters are, as well as educating myself for the first time, or re-educating myself for the first time, and basically reminding me who these characters are. But not only do I feel like I'm doing that, but I also feel like I'm giving the spotlight. I'm giving I'm giving the spotlight to characters that have had it before or haven't had it in a while, and I want people to realize that these are characters that, even though they don't get the spotlight much or haven't gotten the spotlight before, deserve to be given an opportunity to be looked at and studied and enjoyed. So that's why I continue doing this series. And like I said, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but even still, I thank you guys for following me, on this journey and everything when it comes to the series. And like I said, we are just getting started, guys. We are just getting started, and that's all I'm going to really say. So, get ready. There's going to be a lot more coming. And if you got any suggestions, let me know in the comment section. If not already, in the live chat, give me suggestions on who you think I should cover next that I have yet to cover. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, until next time, in closing, I want to say once again thank you to Jawbreaker for the inspiration to do this series. And hope to see more of your furry girl profiles in the future. Hope to see some new ones come from you. I know he's been doing some compilations. Basically, it's his Play for Cinema TV videos he's been putting up. So those are compilations of all his, furry girl profile episodes. So go check those out, and I hope to see more from him in the future. When I mean more, I mean new, if you know what I mean. But yeah, again, shout out to him and thank you to him for inspiring me to do this series. And like I said, we are just getting started, folks, so stay tuned. There's going to be more to come. And like I said, if you got any suggestions, let me know in the comment section if you didn't already in the live chat. For those that I've yet to cover in this series. But until next time, guys, take care, God bless, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, share the video, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube, as well as to support me outside of YouTube as well. But guys, like I said, there's more to come, and if you got suggestions of those I have yet to cover, let me know in the comments if you didn't already in the live chat. And super thanks will be open if you didn't get any super chats in during this, during the live premiere. But until next time, guys, that's all I'm going to say. And until then, God bless. Take care.